If you just started learning Portuguese, you are probably making some big pronunciation mistakes. I remember when I first started learning Portuguese and I sounded terrible. So I decided to make a video that would have helped me out 2 years ago and save me from many embarrassing moments. Firstly, always assume that you stress the second to last syllable. Say this word. You should have said poderia and not poderia. That was a word that I consistently struggled with. Now, whenever there's an accent above any letter in the word, that is the syllable that you stress. So pronounce this word. You should not be saying horario. You should be saying horario. And also notice how I didn't pronounce the H. Don't ever pronounce the H if it's at the beginning of a word. Just pretend it isn't even there. However, you would make the H sound if the word started with an R or it had 2 consecutive R's anywhere in the word. So for the first case, you'd pronounce this word like hatu and not ratu. And for this word, you would pronounce it kahu and not karu. Also, notice how the O at the end of these words don't make an O sound. It's not hato or kaho, it's hatu. Kahu. It ends in a U sound, not an O sound. And since we're on the topic of discussing words that end in a particular letter, let's talk about words that end with L. If you see an L at the end of any word, you should not actually sound it out like an L. You should sound it like a Portuguese U or an English W. So it wouldn't be literal or saudável or mal. It would be literal, saudável, or mal. And this applies to every single word that ends in the letter L. And a fun little side note, whenever you hear a Brazilian speaking English, it's very difficult for them to pronounce the words that end in L. So instead of saying literal or bull, they say litero, bo, bao. So it's just a fun little side note. Secondly, whenever a word ends in im, you don't pronounce the M. In fact, that whole syllable isn't actually how you would pronounce it. It is actually a nasal sound, kind of like And when you do see this in a word, that should never be the syllable that you stress. So it's not falam, it's falam. And now we get to the most inconsistent letter in Portuguese, the letter X or the letter X. In all honesty, if you're a beginner and you see an X, just make the sh sound. That's generally what I follow. However, there are exceptions. It can make the x sound like in English, like in taxi. It can make the S sound like in próximo, and it can make a Z sound like in exato. But just use the sh sound until you learn about the exceptions, and then once you learn about the exceptions, just try to remember them for when the occasion arises. The J sound is also a little weird in Portuguese, especially if you already know Spanish. It's not an H sound, it's not a H like in trabajo, you know? It's a J sound, like how you'd say Asia. It's that same J sound. Finally, just a little bonus word that I struggled with a lot, the word quieto. It's quieto, not quieto. I hope you found this useful. I recommend sharing this video with another person who just started learning Portuguese. I think it'd help them out a lot. And with that said, have a great day. Ciao.